Hey team, how we going? It is Kaz from In the Trenches with Kaz, and I'm about to pop onto the screen with the filthy Lauren in a couple more minutes. We just want to introduce you and say, we're back. We're back. Okay. G'day team, how we going? Been as sick as the politician's mind. But it's okay, here we are today. We're going to be talking about a few different interesting subjects as the charge level on the batteries of Kaz, the human iPhone, goes up. You know, we've watched If I Choose Wrong. We're now going to watch Has Putin Gone a Bridge Too Far? We're going to extrapolate, some of the information that we would look at when we look strategic and tactics of the current situation, who the game players are. Is this Tom Brady versus fill in the blank, his opposition?
The tiki lamp. The tiki
That's right.
Statue.
I meant the NFL player, actually.
Oh, sorry. I think you meant from the Brady Bunch.
We've got our Rafi there over in Ukraine and Russia. No one's safe. It doesn't matter if you're in a ship. It doesn't matter if you're in a plane. It doesn't matter if you're on the ground, because it's close to conventional warfare. It is.
This is where everyone has to come together.
It is. I hope everyone's doing well. I can see Horsey Boy there.
Yeah, exactly. We've got King Katyusha asking if it started. Yep, we've started. Hoodle Doodle is really proud of himself because he dropped 3 minutes off his 2-kilometer run today.
Holy shit.
And Simon Bailey's hat. Stephen Webb is here. Stephen Webb wants to know, should he be wearing a face mask?
No. I don't share.
And I've got to say, you sound so much better than you did yesterday.
Well, what I wanted to do was to go into a liberal hangout and go and have a cigar and not tell anyone that I had COVID, and then ask who can smell that. And when they all put their hand up, remind them that it's COVID smoke.
Yep.
Give them something to cry about. But Stevie Webb's here.
Yeah, Stephen Webb's here. We've got Archie Kerr is here. I'll get to your question in a minute, Archie, because that's what we're going to be talking about. Eureka Element has said, hi, Private Caswell. I think he's got your rank wrong.
Ooh.
Yeah. Then
Private Caswell.
John T1 is here. There's some new names here. So don't forget to leave a thumbs up because we really appreciate it. And if you're just listening and can't chat in the chat box on the side, you need to subscribe.
Yeah, that's the thing. It gives you the all you gotta do is subscribe, and straight away you should have what do we call it? Something we don't have in Australia. Freedom of speech. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We've got Peter Mayfield here saying hello.
Pack of durries. How you going, mate?
Yeah, exactly. And Brett's there, and Brett's talking about how I hit 1,000 subscribers.
Yes, you did. She would walk 1,000 miles.
Yeah, exactly. I pronounced your name right. I'm so glad about that. Deadpool is here. Well, we know who he really is.
Is Deadpool here? Robin, thanks for letting us know.
Yeah, he said it smells like car owners virus in here. That was very clever.
Good. I see what he's saying there.
Yeah. Windscreens O'Brien is here.
I've got a few smashed windscreens around here, mate.
There's some very clever names. Mark Schroeder is here.
Hey, Schroeds. What else we got? Eureka. He's going to stand up for himself. I'm just going to throw this out quickly, team. There is a song at the moment from a guy called Tom McDonald. I didn't know this white rapper, until a week ago. I think he's Canadian. He's just brought out a song which is a 4-person Nova, Tom McDonald, and 2 of these other dudes, these cats in America, have brought out a song called In God We Trust. It's almost emotional to watch, because I looked at it and I think sometimes when I get so frustrated, when I get so angry at the world, it feels like it's teetering to the left, so far that common sense is gone and we're sawing a hole in the bottom of the life raft as we eventually got away from the Titanic. I listen to this and all of the words it says in it is the way I actually think. So listen to In God We Trust.
It's really great.
It's the best song ever.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that guy until you sent me that link.
And how beautiful was Nova?
Oh, she's gorgeous.
Yeah. JP.
Yeah, JP's here.
Wasp is here.
Yep, Wasp is here. James has asked, has Rona done a number on you, Kaz?
Yeah, dude. Daughter come back from school. You know, she got corona. You know, I said, you're too young to drink. You know, and then 2 days later, I'm a summer bright guy myself. 2 days later, I thought I was pregnant, but it was a rat test. So either one, I'm pregnant, or two, I'm a rat. Hold a sec. Last time I looked.
Are you going to keep that test too?
Bam, there we go. There we go. So, yeah, and honestly, it took the whole week for me to be able to speak properly. And I was coughing, you know, like someone that had double emphysema too. No disrespect to those that know people that have it.
Yeah, it was terrible. You sounded like you're at death's door there for a bit.
My voice, I almost sounded like a man at one stage.
You sounded like when the mic goes funny. Leo Wanker is here, stuntman for life.
Go, Leo.
And that's about everyone, I think. If you haven't said g'day, do drop in and say g'day. Oh, it's so nice to see Mr. Patterson here.
It is good. Mr. P, for those that don't know, he's the fine wine, the vintage, you know, more like a vinegar really. But, you know, he's done his time. He's not the best of health, so no one should ever complain about their health in front of Mr. P. But he still makes it here, keeps us honest, tries to get us off after about 4 minutes. I don't mean get us off, I mean get off the stream. But it's always great to see him here, and while ever he's having a go at us, that means he's a little bit okay, and if that's the case, we're doing our bit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's our Mr. P. We wouldn't have him any other way.
That's it. Peter Mayfield, I probably think you agree. I agree with you, mate. A bit of moonshine would clear me out, but not as good as a little bit of domestic tear gas. That always works well.
Now, there's a question here Archie Kerr had, which is related to the Ukraine situation.
Yes.
Okay. He said, do you personally think Australian troops will go to fight?
I don't think they will, no. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And I'll explain to you in a moment that they are not a NATO country. And what we're seeing at the moment, if we've done for those that don't really keep up with history, is forest fires occur, sparks, embers in locations where once they go off, you've got to be very careful about wetting your powder early and then going to committing to something only to find out, holy shit, now the home front is being attacked. I'm going to get home. Sorry, I can't. You know, we've got to be very careful with this one. At the moment, we've got the red corn chip who's saying some pretty provocative things about Taiwan, you know, and it's not the fact that Taiwan is there to be protected as such, you know, where all my good plastic toy soldiers used to come from. It's the fact that the waterways, Japan has said it's a red line. You know, Korea, it's a red line. You know, you've got all these different stakeholders that are within this. So it'd be folly to go and commit yourself to go and save the poorest country in Europe that already outnumbers the Russians on the ground more than 20 to 1. Thank you to the veterans that they've got from having their what do you call it, national service, etc. equivalent. You know, you've got millions of people in that country. They don't need any other fighters to come over. They've got more than enough. You can actually end up with too many soldiers in too small an area that are all trying to get inside the combat. I'd say absolutely not. I'd say Europe, you've got over 100,000 Australian sons that have made your grass greener. You know, there's 30 countries in NATO. You know, what Russia's doing at the moment, you know, they're over their skates. They don't need any extra people over there, yet another language barrier to make things even more complicated. And if you're going to go there, one of the questions I was going to ask, so we'll start off with some of the questions before we go into the information for tonight, is your thoughts on foreign fighters. You let us know, guys. What are your thoughts on foreign fighters going over there? Is someone going there because this is their Instagram moment?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it because they don't know what real war looks like? They're used to being in a police action?
It's got to do with their motive, doesn't it? As to
you've got to look.
Because people go for all sorts of reasons.
You've got psychopaths. You've got sociopaths. You've got those that are ill-disciplined that don't want to go and do formal training, but want to go over there and just get right into it. And their goal is not adventure, and their goal is not the great adventure mateship. Their goal is to get over there and act in a way that would have been appropriate, 400 years ago.
Yep,
So
exactly.
people go over there for different reasons, and you should be able to say, other than the Ukrainian people need me, because you could go, okay, well, what about the people in the Congo? What about the people in Burundi? What about the people in Indonesia? Why is it suddenly now that this matters? Is it because the most cameras are there? Would you go somewhere if there wasn't cameras?
Yeah, I've thought about it, and I think maybe we've got this residual hangover fear from maybe our parents and grandparents of Europe kicking off again. And I thought about it, and I thought maybe it's a fear in the back of people's minds that what happened last time Europe was all kicked off against each other.
Yeah.
So that could be it. We've got some new folk have just jumped in. We got Rusty Gypsy Roving, 4x4 driver, King of Salsig, Hero of Troy is here.
Hero of Troy, Hector.
Yeah, indeed. That's it. Yeah. So I think, but I have a bit of a biased worry. I have different concerns for the people who might even good-heartedly, I feel like they're getting swept up in in the excitement, if that's the right word.
Absolutely.
And I think of our friends who did private security, like in Afghanistan and that,
Yep.
and they a lot of them got a really rude culture shock and really got hurt, and they didn't have the backup of, say, DVA or that at the end of it.
That's it. There's no flag that's going to fly above your grave. There's no waiting committee. And you don't even know if you went to come home to England, to Canada, to New Zealand, or to USA or Australia, etc. You're going, well, dude, what if you come home and now you're seen as potentially a domestic terrorist? You're definitely going to have a big asterisk beside your name.
Yeah, and I'm definitely going to think twice about them, because, to be quite honest with you, it kind of made people go down a little bit, in my opinion, when they do that, because I just can't get out of my head. Maybe you can explain it, the difference between a mercenary and what they're doing.
Well, the mercenary does it for money and favour and reward, whereas a soldier does it because they're sent as a political extension, and they're sent there to fight as a group formation, and they're to fight under specific command, control and communications, tactics and procedures. Because that's where our strength comes from. A warrior, will beat a soldier quite often one-on-one. But when you actually use soldiers and then you start to use their playbook tactics, they'll win every time, pretty much. Except in what we're seeing at the moment, where Russia has strolled in. And for the first time, they're using conventional warfare with an element of laws of armed conflict. They've held back a lot. And what we're seeing now is they don't like it when they're facing off against asymmetric warfare. And probably the best example of this was what happened with the USA in Afghanistan, or the USA in Iraq. If you can't see them, you can't shoot at them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we can safely say at this point, look, anything can happen, but I think we can safely say, I don't think our Australian Army infantry will be going there.
They won't be. And you know what? Yeah. I heard a rumour too. Tell me if I'm right here. And guys, please put up there what you think of the foreign fighters, because we've got they are. We've got some very young people that probably see this as a very romantic thought process until you get over there and realise that what if you got over there and you didn't actually even like the Ukrainian people?
Well, yeah, it's kind of what worries me is how lawless it could become too for the actual any innocent folk who are caught up there.
Mm.
So there is some comments about it. We've got it's a tragedy what's happening in Ukraine. It's Haroon is here.
Okay.
Those poor people didn't deserve the bombardments of their cities, and what's happening across the Ukraine, it's a tragedy. It is very sad, and that is war, though. I have to tell you, war is not nice. There is nothing beautiful about it, is there?
And a lot of people don't realise Russia has completely held back. This is nowhere near what they are capable of.
Yeah, exactly. Windscreens O'Brien said, what good are you going to be if you can't speak the language? Yep, fair point. But I believe they've got that foreign, legion now.
If you find them,
yeah,
Ukraine's a massive country.
Exactly. And also, I'm hoping that would bring some order to the foreign fighters, but it just sounds chaotic and it bothers me. Even the Russian side with their African fighters and their, all the Chechens and all that, it sounds chaotic. Because they've got Syrians now too. So it sounds very chaotic.
I actually laughed when I saw that Syrians want to go and fight. And the first thing that Mr. Putin said was, yeah, but we won't be paying you.
I believe they were offered $100 or something.
Well, that won't cover their ticket to get there.
No,
when they get there, they're going to be people that have gone from the desert, into a cold European landscape where they're ethnically going to completely stand out. They're not going to speak the same language. They're joining the losing side.
Yep.
And I tell you what, when you were a foreign fighter and you get captured, the rules change.
Yep.
The rules change.
Yes. I imagine they do. We've got Isaac, which is spelt differently here, but I'm sure you say Isaac, said Putin would slam it as foreign fighters from NATO, which is really pouring gasoline on the fire of this conflict. I think there is, from my opinion, there is one person who has been throwing fuel on this fire at this point. I think the world has actually shown a great deal of restraint, knowing that it will escalate things very quickly. If they have to be, the NATO and the West are being so careful tiptoeing around this situation.
This is already touching us. For the first time in the history of the world, we're looking at fuel above $2.20. Before we've actually got that shipment of oil, which means, in actual fact, the petroleum companies in Australia, BP, they're stealing from us. This is not the cost of oil for them. They're actually stealing from people. They are making massive profits. This is like stealing from people by selling them overpriced hay in a drought. That's what's happening, and it's disgusting, and it should be regulated. And all they have to do is say, we're not going to tax anymore, but what we're going to do is you're only allowed to make, for example, 5 cents a litre profit off your fuel, your oil, okay, per litre, whether it be diesel, whether it be unleaded, etc. That would straight away bring it down to half price nearly. So don't ever think this is the price of oil over there, because other than England, we're paying, I believe, the highest fuel prices in the world.
Yeah, it's
and no one can tell you why.
It's unbelievable down here. Like, it's crazy. There's folk who are working from home not because of the pandemic. They're working from home because they can't afford the fuel.
Yeah. Here's a pretty quick question. Just a yes or no answer, team. Do you think at the moment, with the way the extra stakeholders, what's happening on the ground at the moment between Pakistan and India, between Iraq and Iran, between Corn Chip and Taiwan, between between the other belligerents such as Russia on Ukraine, you can't be afraid of the ultimate threat being those weapons of mass destruction forever. Do you think, yes or no, are we going to have WW3 potentially in 2022? Let us know, yes or no. What are your thoughts? I don't have the answers for that, but we're watching and seeing, and we're being touched by this right now in the stock market. We're being touched via the fuel pump.
Yeah, and, I believe there was a lot of announcements of pay rises for those on welfare, and it's to compensate for inflation that is going skyrocketing at the moment.
The danger is...
Yeah, so it's just never one problem, is it? This
Nope.
is the problem with war. It causes this whole heap of problems.
Yeah. What we'll do now is I'm going to talk about, okay, so Deadpool reckons, yep, straight up, that's already fake news because it's Robin hiding behind Deadpool there. For those that don't know, that's Batman's offsider. This poor guy is about to go down to Adelaide, from up near Brisbane, and the fuel prices are going up by the day, and it's already an off-pay week for him. He's going down to see his sick father, and it's already costing him over $1,000 to drive there in one of the nicest cars in Australia, of course, It is a Raptor, fully done up. But, yeah, he can see his bills getting higher and higher and higher.
Yeah,
What I might do, because he's going there to see his sick father, is I'm thinking Patreon might actually, we don't normally put money in the hands of people we know, but what we might do is put a little bit of money in his pocket so he can get down and see his sick father.
Yeah, exactly. That's for his dad anyway.
Yep, just like I didn't put... Sorry?
We don't know his dad. It's not for Robin. It's for Robin's dad.
That's right. Just like I didn't give any money to the telethon for the floods, because I actually know people have lost their houses, and we'll give it to them directly.
Yeah, exactly.
Get rid of the admin cost. Okay, so what we're going to do at the moment, Lauren, just so you understand the way it works. Okay. There's a thing called a centre of gravity construct that you can make. So you understand what your weaknesses, what your strengths are, your good versus bad box, your positive versus negative, should I break up with a now box, etc. Yep. If you don't understand that, first what we need to do is go a little bit backwards and ask you, Lauren, do you understand the difference between strategy or strategic versus tactical?
Not very well. That's why I always have to ask you questions.
Okay.
Maybe I do, but I don't understand the definitions, the terms.
Well, you consider that tactics is what happens in the boxing ring.
Okay.
Strategy is what you done before you got in.
Yeah, then I do understand that, and I apply it to my everyday life.
Guess what's part of strategy?
What?
Fake news is part of a strategy. The narrative, you've got to be able to win the information battle to get in the head of your opponent.
Exactly. Okay. Even if you're doing the right thing, you have to also give the impression of doing the right thing. You must be seen to be doing the right thing if it's a big thing.
Okay, so if I'm going to go and fight someone, in the boxing ring, and I'll use this as a loose analogy for you guys, and you're fighting someone like Anthony Mundine, probably you're going to beat him, okay, because now he's fighting for money. So he's already got his money just by getting in the ring, which means he probably hasn't trained as hard as he used to when he was a formidable boxer. Okay? So basically what you're looking at doing is he should be a pushover for you as long as you deconstruct his centre of gravity. The most important thing for him is to get paid. So what you do is every time he sees you, you have to look your strongest. Every time he looks at you, you have to look like you can't wait to fight. You don't sit down in the chair in between training. You just go like a beast, even if it is fake news. Yep. Because your centre of gravity is the title, is the win, etc. That's a loosely based one, but strategy is what you do off the battlefield. Tactics is what you do on the battlefield. There's some different sort of things in there. Special forces have a crossover into both. So does the role of a sniper. A sniper is one of those rare elements that has a strategic value that makes them worth more than a tank. How can that be possible, Kaz? Well, I'm writing a story at the moment called Mosquito 9, which is about a group of foreign fighters in the Ukraine, all snipers. They're all Western fighters as well. And the difference they can make strategically on the battlefield by utilising group skills, communication, taking out key players to have a mental and psychological and moralistic effect, on the home front as well as what they can on the battlefield. So what we're going to do now is we're going to quickly deconstruct loosely, what's happening in the Ukraine. So tomorrow when people talk about things, you go, oh, I know a little bit deeper now. For those that don't understand, I've did 4 years in tactics and leadership division where basically we teach people the reason why we fight, where we derive our will to fight, what's the most important thing to foster, what is the weak points that we need to work on, and where we can lose our will to fight as well, because that can be exploited or targeted if the enemy understand what our centre of gravity deconstruction would look like.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask questions. We don't expect you to know stuff you don't know. This is I bombard Kaz with questions of stupid stuff if I don't understand it. But he always explains it, so feel free to ask any questions.
I'll put this one really simple to you. Let's just say there's 4 people inside a heavy battle tank, and the heavy battle tank is coming down the road. You don't even have an anti-armor weapon system with you. You understand, we're going to be fucked if he finds out where we are. So you need to blind him. How do you do that? quite often ill-disciplined armour, even in threat locations like we see in Ukraine. You see the Russian tank commanders outside the cupola, and they are the tank commander. They're from the chest up out of the actual tank. He is the commander, the communication, and the control of that vehicle. He is the dad, the knowledge. If I don't have to hit him with a javelin, okay, which can destroy that tank, and I don't mean one that's thrown at the Olympics, what I'm talking about is an anti-armor weapon system that can do top attack or direct attack, up to 2 kilometers top attack, normally around 1,500 meters, via a command launch unit, which actually refrigerates, turns into thermal imagery, locks onto the target, and basically doesn't miss with a controlled operator. Rather than do that, all I've got to do, because they never travel alone, is hit 2 tank commanders at the same time with 2 marksmen, and you've got 2 commanders that have hit the ground. They don't know what's going on. Now people are blind. What the fuck just happened? They've got blood getting spurted all over the inside of the tank, and those 2 tanks are basically neutralised. Because now someone has to leave their position in the tank to come up and then take the place of the commander. And if he doesn't lock down, guess what? I'm going to give him a third eye as well. So I just neutralised 2 tanks with 2 bullets. That's about $3.50 these days. Anyway, so let's look at our countries. Consider these countries as 2 people.
Okay.
So we've got Russia and we've got Ukraine. Let's deconstruct Russia first. Russia's commander, Putin, dictator. Okay, we've got Ukraine, Zelensky, popularity, Democrat, freedom fighter, as well as a celebrity. Right, so this is a little bit like Independence Day. Seeing Will Smith when he's going to fight the aliens being AKA Putin. Mm-hmm. Right? From down there, what we come down to. So we know the levels of commander. We also now know that NATO is leaning like a buzzard off its branch, waiting to pick the bones if it gets an opportunity. On the other side is China. Center of gravity. Corn chip is hanging off its perch, and it's looking at Zelensky like a mother-in-law looking at a COVID-stricken son-in-law that has won lotto. She knows it's only a matter of time before it's mine. With a little craw. Anyway, so if I was to say to you, what was Russia, now that we know that he swept across the border, I'm not trying to ignore any of your chat over here, team.
Oh, no, we'll get to it.
If Russia has a mission and also Zelensky has a mission, remember, a mission is the who, where, what, where, and why of what they're trying to achieve. So Russia, the who, okay, Russia, okay, what, okay, is trying to seize, all of Ukraine, no later than, still a question mark, we don't know what that's going to be, in order to do what? To stop eastern encroachment of NATO, to also be able to seize all assets and create a buffer to deny freedom of movement for that eastern encroachment of NATO towards the Russian borders. So that's what he's trying to do. What's Zelensky trying to do? He is trying to stall. He is trying to, no later than, how long does it take NATO to get involved? Because he can't do it forever. He's got to do it till peace talks happen, okay, or until someone steps in and helps him. That's his only chance.
Yeah. Okay,
from there, what he's trying to do, he's not trying to become NATO. NATO is a byproduct of survival. He didn't say, I want to be NATO. And if he did, that was because he was given false assurances, from NATO countries, including Lindsey Graham in 2018, that said you're going to be A-OK. This guy clearly is in love with himself. He's in love with his camera. Fine. I like the dude too. There's a lovely picture of his family. He's been with his wife for 20 years. She's she loves the camera too. He loves his family. He's a larrikin. He's been on Dance with the Stars.
Yeah, they're both entertainers. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with him loving the camera because guess what?
No.
The majority of people that do across the world.
At least for him, it was his job.
Yeah, that's right.
He was professional. Welcome, Sean Quilkey.
I was going to say Shaun of the Dead.
No, Sean Quilkey.
Sean.
The great unwashed.
Nortsu Cow. He's just joined the. He's a foreign fighter. He's come over, joined the channel, and now he's in the trenches. We're going to give you a rubber band now that we've had gun buybacks in early 90s. Oh, and out of respect to that, wait 2 seconds, Lauren. I'm going to show you something quickly before we continue this on. Guys and gals, bit of a shock for you. Look at that. That's a little bit of a heads up of the van. Boom. It's on the way, said the proclaimers. Good to go. Can't wait to get it just in time for fuel prices to even double. Mate, thank you very much, Sean, or Scene, as I'd call it if I was a kid. Can we get some thumbs up, please, for Sean there? Again, Lawrence put Patreon there. Guys and gals, I can't stress enough. If you need a conversation, I need to talk to Andy, because I was too sick to call him in the last week.
I'm sure Andy understands.
That wasn't a prop, that fake cough then. Get on Patreon. You speak on this phone. I speak to you for an hour, or on at least per occasion, and we get you sorted out with what's going to come your way, okay? Yeah. And we'll fix your problems.
Yeah. Deadpool was just actually admiring the Pepsi shade of blue that it is.
It's not that. I actually clarified that today.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
It's not like Pepsi. Why did you have a can of Pepsi to compare?
I said sell it. Hands of Colour there by Deadpool. Good to have you here, mate.
I love these lots of three. That's for Carl while he's
That's
away.
Phil. Okay. So if we come down to, we've been speaking about what they've got. So some of the things that fall onto Zelensky's is he needs to delay Russia. What he needs to do is take out forces by attrition. He needs the tariffs to break in onto the Russian people, so they actually turn on their own regime. Denial tactics in order to ensure democratic freedoms are achieved. And he has to do all that before Kiev is encircled and he is triangulated and taken out. Because the two biggest hidden pins, the most dangerous course of action for either one of these missions, the house of cards falls if Putin is killed. He's not going to get taken out by his own people. He's not. He is totally protected by a circle of secret police, an iron curtain, and I dare say there is orders out that if anything happens to Putin, everyone that was in that room, every one of their family members will be exterminated.
He'll have an insurance policy somewhere. Let's hope it's not really big.
Yeah.
So it really is, and this is when you've sort of seen what and the who.
Yeah.
This is where it becomes a game of chess. Is that
right?
It
is. It's absolutely that.
So where you take what you've got and try to meet your objective before they meet theirs.
So this is where I say, Australia, one of the things that's letting us down now is the people that we're recruiting. HR is failing Australia in the military by using left-leaning, liberal, not group dynamics, but feel-good tactics as we had, I believe, the Chief of Army let us down. And I believe the last two have at least let us down. Chief of Defence Force, sorry, by allowing quotas of females in infantry because they didn't want to say no. People with political aspirations after they move on from here. By making everything, the double standards that are in there, it's such a hodgepodge. Everyone is meant to be the same. On the wall of honour, it's not meant to have your rank. It's just meant to have your name. So we're all even. Yet at the moment, we've got all of these different people working under different fitness, under different pay, under different standards. All of these things, and other people being special dispensations to get in. Well, guess what? When it comes to the time where you've actually got to pick up the bayonet, if you've got the wrong people, you can tell that some of the eggs are off. And we need to be able to move at the speed of the slowest person. If the slowest person is slower than what they're supposed to be, because we've allowed certain genders into, male-dominated ones, just by virtue of the planning speed they move at, we've just slowed our entire army down, capability, etc. Now, you can't look at Ukraine and go, yeah, but we're seeing this is working fine over there. You go, no. You've got 2 million soldiers that are fighting less than 180,000, that are doing a really, really bad job, where there's no discipline involved, where people are running around as a militia while they're winning. Let's see what happens when conventional tactics start to come into play and you start to see paper, scissors, rock, combined arms, aviation, mixed with artillery, mixed with infantry, mixed with armour,
really
all working
to watch,
together.
Actually.
Then those that are fighting against them will start to feel what it feels like to cop the horns. So, the centre of gravity. Okay, the centre of gravity where I believe that Russia gets their confidence to fight is their nuclear threat. The nuclear threat, how? Because they're more likely to use it than what NATO is, and they're going to use it on countries at the moment that are dependent on their oil, So it's basically they think that's going to be enough. If all of a sudden something happens against them, that's gone.
And that's a pretty big card.
It's a massive card.
That's a huge card. Like, it doesn't get much bigger than that. So it's fair to assume that would be enough.
And they think it's enough.
Yeah.
And also, there's also that coiled spring, which is the corn chip. No one knows what's going there. And the other centre of gravity is actually, there's nothing they can do about it, is the iron fist that actually commands, Russia. They're able to make their people do what you couldn't make people do in a democratic civilization.
Yep. There's a comment here about the recruiting.
Yes.
Which I'm not sure I agree with. Limb to Limb said, I think part of that recruiting, though, was in response to a very strong job market where the ADF was losing people to mining jobs at double the pay. They lower the standard to attract people. Well, we had a period of time here at the channel, if you remember, where there was so many fit and capable young men willing and wanting to join who actually missed out on the opportunity because they entirely closed it.
They were told 18 months. They were told 18 months, come back, but if you're female, you're in now.
Yeah, exactly. And so there was well, it's certainly not as simple as everybody doing a mass exodus to go join the mines either.
The mines doesn't take soldiers off the army.
No.
What I mean is the mines don't take people who want to join the army. The mines take people that have done their time in the army.
Exactly. We've always had a steady flow of many, many young men willing and probably quite able to do it. But I remember that period of time where there was no chance for them to get in the infantry. And also there was huge waiting lines. So I think I've seen actually an awful lot of folk going to join up. I'd be interested to see the numbers.
Well, they're talking about us recruiting another 18,000, extending now the ceiling. If that's going to happen, one of the things I need to do right now, for those that don't know, that we're not allowed to be on Instagram, not allowed to be on Facebook, but yet we can have a transgender officer get on there and say what they want. What we need to be able to do is we need to point out to people you have a media obligation and within our military judicial system that if you do something wrong, you're already in the shit. Okay, so what they need to do is, I believe, allow them to go on Facebook, but do not talk on behalf of
exactly.
of
got to be
the army.
Individual. Yeah, exactly.
They should be allowed to be proud in uniform. You will never see a soldier in uniform now outside helping people, whether it be in a natural disaster or whatever. You don't want to go and join a job if you've never seen someone doing it. We all came from, when I grew up, where there were soldiers everywhere. They'd come back from, most of our dads were from Vietnam. Most teachers, or half of your teachers were male teachers, and some of them were veterans.
Yep, that's true.
If you never see an Australian uniform, how could you ever want to be one?
Yeah, it is true. Yeah, that's right. And at the moment, the only time people are seeing an Australian soldier is not been so great with the PR lately.
There was never a reason for them to be used with the COVID. That was a disgrace.
No. Exactly.
And saying that, they weren't throwing anyone around. There was no cases of that. They weren't doing anything untoward. They don't even know what they were doing. They were walking around with a group of police. It was deliberately designed to have soldiers being seen on the streets in a way as a veiled threat. What if?
Yeah.
And I think it was wrong. And I wouldn't have wanted to do it either, except for the free coffees.
Yeah, Brady has said that intel is part of the strategy plan. Right, of course it would be, because you need as much knowledge is power. You need as much information as possible.
You do. And we're seeing so much fake news coming out of the Ukraine. And they need to stop that, because people are already on Ukraine's side. You don't need bullshit. Allow real news to come out. The logistics and what has been happening over there from the Russian point of view makes no sense to me for someone that's worked in tactics and seen fantastic logistical soldiers doing their bit as well. None of these things should have been possible, and I think it all comes down to the fear of telling Putin the truth, so they didn't. Okay, so center of gravity, nuclear threat, how can that be targeted? Okay, what we need to do there is either basically call their bluff, or use this time where NATO is out of the game to identify where all their silos are, have weapon systems that are superimposed over that. If a heat signature comes up, they're destroyed inside the silo. What it means is a massive offensive action. Basically what I'm saying is, if something happens against Russia, we have to throw the first punch. I don't necessarily mean a weapon of mass destruction, but what I mean is an attack so large and so big.
Yeah. When you say we, it's not that Australia is part of
Western
NATO.
world.
Yeah, that's what I'm just clarifying.
Western world,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and also efforts to actually take out Putin himself. But if he finds out, he's going to press the button straight away. And that's equivalent, flipping the table. The center of gravity for Ukraine is definitely Zelensky. If he was to be killed, the fight would fall out of them instantly.
Yeah. Well, we're sort of seeing that sort of positioning happening, because the Daily Mail today said that NATO is flexing its muscles because it sent 30,000 troops, 50 vessels and 200 aircraft to the Russian neighbour Norway for military drills. So we can see that game that is getting played right now.
And what I'd be saying at the moment, we've already seen that Russia is not what they pretended to be for so long. They're not the fighting machine that they pretended to be. I don't think they'd last a snowflake in summer. If they went up against NATO, they'd be snuffed out almost instantly if they didn't have the threat of the big brother from New Zealand being the red corn chip, or the nuclear threat, which is like someone having a valuable piece of information about you. Right.
Steve from the UK is here.
Hey, Steve, how you going? Mate, you may not have realised... Oh, sorry, subtitles. You may not have realised, Matt, that I've just had the COVID. So I haven't been able to get out. And I can tell you what, from a single bloke that was at home, when I found out I had COVID, the first thing I did was go, oh, shit. I had a lot in common with those from Ukraine. I went to the fridge and looked inside and it was bare. Lucky I had no appetite for 7 days because, and I had some fantastic goodie boxes brought to me by one of my good buddies. Thank you very much to Angela. Saved the day.
Yeah, good on you, Angela.
But, yeah. So, good to have you here, mate. We've still got your balls in my car. I better get it to you soon because this is the new car. Well,
pretty soon no one can afford a car.
Well, this is going to be sitting in the driveway looking awesome. It's basically
if petrol keeps going the way it is.
An expensive bloody cubby house.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Okay, so here's some things that can be targeted of the most likely course of actions and most dangerous course of actions, etc., that can happen for Russia and for Zelensky. Zelensky's just going to do more of the same. He doesn't have any more surprises up his sleeve. He's just going to keep doing what he does and hope that Russia keeps scoring home goals. But Russia, tactics. At the moment, they're having a hard time with tactics. They're an artillery army that usually break everything down before they roll through in combined arms. And
gosh, just the geography of where they are is crazy with the, the mud.
You got a 40-ton tank. One might get through, but then the second one has a hard time, third one has a harder time, and all of a sudden they're bogged, and then you only need one to be bogged, and you've just stopped an entire convoy. What it also means is you can't adopt a tactical, dispersed formation that utilises your firepower, your speed, and also your survivability against air assets or ground forces. And then when you actually intermix with that BRDMs, etc., your armoured infantry, fighting vehicles, dismounted infantry amongst those, right, they'll be unstoppable then. Right, but they can't do that because normally their tanks move by train. They took out the train lines. They took out the bridges. So now all they are is on predictable roadways. We've only got to take out the first one and you've delayed the next 2,000. So that's happening. So we can actually deny them tactics because of the ground, which also cuts down their ability to use their weapons, their fields of fire. Their manoeuvre has now been stopped, slowed. But a lot of that is, again, home goals, logistics.
Yeah, exactly. It's also the time of year, but we've seen historically that Russia is not afraid to launch attacks in the winter. They have historically always done that, but it's really been a disadvantage for them now because, like Richard Wallace said, that snow is starting to thaw out. He said it'll be just like 1942. It already is in some pictures I've seen.
But the weird thing is infantry can move 40 kilometres in a night. Dismounted. Yep. So what you can do is make it look like, oh yeah, we've got them stuck down. But then overnight, all of a sudden, you've got 20,000 infantry, that are 300 metres away, small arms fire, indirect fire. Anyone that gets caught behind that is now, holy shit. If I get wounded right now, there's no one coming to help me. I'm in a big problem. And then you can start to hear the track squeal as the vehicles start coming and they catch up and you're caught in that pincer movement.
Steve from the UK has a great point.
Yeah.
He said that Russia's supply lines are really stretched, like the distance between London to Glasgow, because the Ukrainian cities are large and all the Ukrainians, are fighting back. And he also said it's the same as what happened to Rommel in World War II.
Yep, because they're meant to be on trains and on trucks, Yep. We're seeing at the moment distances that can be travelled equivalent to Townsville to Sydney. Over 2,000 kilometres. A tank is never meant to do 2,000 kilometres. And are they even getting paid? Don't know.
Hey, welcome.
Hey, it's Bankster. How you going, mate? Welcome to the Great Unwashed, you dirty gypsy. Can we get some thumbs up for Bankster then? What's your cow? I'm going to throw this one up. This was me the last few days, team. Come.
That's a beta male, not an alpha male.
Here it comes.
Beta male, yes. Beta male. Beta. You're a beta male? You're a beta male. Not an alpha male. Beta. What a shame. Mommy's boy.
Hey, Banks, how you going, mate? Let's get some thumbs up for him here. It's great to have you here, guys. We're just trying to take some layers of the onion off so we understand a little bit more about what we're talking about, that it's not as simple as two armies come together. You would not want to put the minds of the world together now and say, try and fix the problem that Putin has just made. There's no off-ramp. We spoke about this the other day, and first phase of war, the advance, he's done that, crossed the border. Second phase of war, the attack, he's currently doing that now.
He's doing that.
He hasn't made it to this, but he's
progressed beyond that point, have we?
He hasn't even got to that yet. He hasn't even got to the defence / the occupation, and even when he does get to that, he knows he's going to lose when he does get it. So it's like the dog that is shit scared of catching the cat, or the guy that goes out in front of the beautiful women at the cafe that says, I'm going to catch those 10-foot waves, but he hasn't even got out the back. He's been hit by the shore dump and realises, I'm going to be too scared to catch a wave once I get out there. I'm a fugazi. And I've been that guy too at 1 Mile Beach off Newcastle, Stockton Beach. Okay, the legitimacy. Putin has no legitimacy in this whatsoever.
No, that's right.
And anyone that goes with him, even China, Corn Chip, is looking at him like,
Yeah, even they're giving him a side eye.
Yeah, how do I try to justify what we're doing to support this guy? I can't.
Yeah, exactly. From the UK, it's that autocracy that we were talking about when this all kicked off. I have a question for you, Kaz.
Yeah.
Is it a coincidence that we're seeing legal action launched over the aeroplane?
I think that is really low picking fruit.
Same.
Are you serious?
I mean, if they were
are you going to
to
send an
do that,
investigator in there?
done.
They've already been there. The time to do all this.
Yeah,
This is like piling on top.
Because it makes me think, well, if you're not doing that for the victims' families, if you were doing that for the victims' families, you would have done it straight away, not held it up your sleeve.
Yep. This is a look over here to take the mind off our government that's not doing a real good job. Make it look like we're doing something.
Yeah, well, because it does feel a bit helpless, because it is correct, though. The second anyone steps in, it's just going to be on like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, and how many countries are too many to have in NATO? Because you can have too many too.
That's true.
Yeah,
it was never a everybody's allowed in thing. It was for those nations who had common interests.
Not just common interests, but you had to have something to offer to the table.
Exactly.
You can't be the remora that turns up to the Great White.
Strength.
Yeah.
Combined strength. A bit like that. What was that thing we were talking about? That we talked about it last year. The UK, the US, Australia. I think
AUKUS.
Canada.
Australia, New Zealand, and UK. Yep.
Yeah, but we need New Zealand out of there right now with their current leadership.
Yeah, the Five Eyes. Let's leave Canada out as well.
Exactly.
At the moment, we need to look at the fact that. Sorry, what was that? What's wrong? We're saying YTYT. If you talk about anything to do with the red corn chip, YouTube will come in and they will cut down your stream, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yep. You're not allowed to say anything bad about them. Even in Hollywood, they're never allowed to say anything about the red corn chip, or they lose their job. And when you see people that do say something about them, they have to stand up and make a formal apology to China. Look at was it Cena, John Cena?
Yeah.
He had to actually get on there and speak Mandarin, saying sorry and how pathetic he was for insulting them. All the movies of Hollywood get altered. They're not allowed to have certain people of colour in the movies as good parts. They're not allowed to. There's a whole bunch of things. They're never allowed to be portrayed as the enemy. It's a weird one that a lot of people don't know about. So Russia's stuck in the third phase of war that they're approaching. They're still in the second phase of war, being the attack. There's no off-ramp for them. They don't know how to get out of this. No one knows how this ends. But it's not going to be good for Ukraine either.
Yeah, no, it's not good for anyone really. Look at everyone suffering, and Europe now shuffling to find alternate sources for oil and gas. Well, so what happens after those three phases? What happens next?
Well, after that becomes a withdrawal, because the actual third phase itself, that can actually go for years. That went for nearly 20 years in Afghanistan. And the withdrawal is there has to be a reason to pull out. And that normally means mission success or mission defeat.
That's when one person's met their objective, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. And at the moment, mission objective for Russia can only be when Zelensky's dead.
Yep.
Okay, and the only thing that can happen for Zelensky is if Russia, because at the moment he's not even trying to be NATO anymore. He's going, just leave us alone, please.
Yep, exactly.
Hey,
Tuan
Tran.
I think if it was Tuan who we were talking to the other week, I think they've got a boy who is in training right now. I think. I might have got that wrong.
It's a proud moment. It is a proud moment. And what I could say to you, TT, is don't be stressed about this. The situation that's happening at the moment, I think, as of now, I've got to make a video on about 6 or 7 things that Australia needs to do almost straight away. And one of those is it's time for national service. Because the one advantage that Ukraine has at the moment, one, is they have weapon systems, armaments, small arms. I don't mean actual physical arms. But they also have that military background, plus that mentality, and patriotism that comes with loving your country, something that's been completely deteriorated in the Western world, which is again why I say to people, go and watch the song In God We Trust. You don't have to be religious to understand the message, but if the entire world was religious, would be a better world than being atheist, where there's no actually advantage other than it's not about who's right and who's wrong. It's not.
No, but
you want to know that you're being supervised, that there is a greater power in the absence of being able to police yourself, or be able to conduct some sort of code of conduct that assimilates well with your own culture and others. If every single person is thinking, how can I make life better for the person to my left, the person to the right, that means someone's also thinking about you as well. Everyone's covered. We're good to go.
Yeah. Tuan's son marches out of Kapuka on the 1st of April.
1st of April?
That's what he said.
Do you know where he's getting posted? He's just dodged winter. Everyone that's getting in at the moment is getting ready to go to winter training. Yeah. Winter sucks in Australia, team.
Yeah, I know. Everyone thinks it's always sunshine. It's not.
No. And it doesn't matter if you've been to a country like Siberia. Siberia is not as cold as Puckapunyal. And how do I explain that? In Siberia, you dress for the occasion. Everyone does the infantry work as you go through basic training, promotion courses, etc. It's always geared off infantry training. And when we're out in the field environment, you don't wear jumpers, you don't wear raincoats when it's raining, when you're on the move, because that's how you end up with condensation, people going down with heat. You've got to be able to be resilient and be able to take the temperature.
Kynan's here.
Peppers.
Yep, Mr. Peppers.
Mr. Peppers, you would have laughed at how empty my fridge was when I got COVID, mate. Yeah. I looked in there and the cupboard was bare. The poor little dog got none.
Oh, old Mother Hubbard.
Yep. She bent over and Rover put in a bone of his own.
Yep, indeed.
Have you heard that saying before?
No.
Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to get poor Rover a bone, but when she bent over, Rover took over and put in a bone of his own.
No! Good grief, you guys have to ruin everything. All the lyrics to songs, everything that's innocent.
The worst thing I've ever seen a soldier do out of boredom, because, and this is way before COVID-19, when we thought that a bat was just like a puppy that could fly, and a guy actually chewed the wing of a dead bat. You're going, man, that's a vector. For those that don't know, a bat is like a rat. It is a natural carrier of human-born diseases.
That's terrible. I want to disinfect my mouth just from hearing that story.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh.
The scariest I've ever been overseas, other than from another human threat, was watching a kid, who was about 50 metres off the ground, while he had a competition with his kids in East Timor to go and get the highest coconuts from this tree that was also out over a cliff. And he'd got all the way to the top and ran out of puff.
Yeah.
And I thought, if he slides down that, he might as well be transgender. There's going to be nothing left between his legs.
Exactly. And the chest and everything. Yeah, awful.
Yeah, and I love kids, but not like the clergy. And I was just thinking, please, mate, hold on. Because you can't go up and help him. He eventually got his tuck, and his fear got him down okay. So don't panic. He made it. So what we were talking about was the centre of gravity, how we fight about it, how we target things, how can we target Russia? Well, that's asymmetric warfare. Using hit and run tactics, using ground knowledge, using the underdog advantage. Logistically, they're good to go. The legitimacy of their fight. There's not going to be much left to fight for if we actually see the Russians get around Kiev. And we've actually seen Putin saying the last few days, in between me not being able to sleep, was him say the only way we're going to get Kiev is to demolish it. Now, that's a pretty scary prospect because
really scary.
There's millions of people that live in that city.
There really is.
Yeah.
And they're still leaving, and some of them are being very, very patient about leaving too.
and you've eventually got to say to yourself, you got to know when to hold them. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to leave. They just have to wait their turn. You know. Yeah. Oh, there's Kynan with a green cow.
I'm just trying to say, what's he said? I can't see him. I'm almost blind,
He
team.
bet you found corners of the cupboard you hadn't seen for a while, Kaz.
I got splinters. Not too cow, mate. I could have done with some pepper. I tell you what, mate, there was a few sausages and a bit of stuff in there that I said to myself, I'm going to cook it twice as long because there'd be some botulism left in those. And I don't know how long they've been in the fridge. You know? Even a sailor wouldn't have gone near that sausage.
Bailey Island has said, I'm going into basic training on Tuesday.
What corps are you going into there? Oh,
I don't know. Hey, David Penson's here.
There he is from Vietnam.
Actually, David, he sounds a lot better. You should have heard him 2 days ago.
It was bad, man.
It was bad. It was really bad.
I thought I was back in Nam until I realised I'd never been there.
I thought you were putting on a voice. You know how you do sometimes when you ring me, but then it just stayed.
It was terrible. I could not believe. Put a thumbs up if you've had COVID yet. It's the only time I've ever been sick that you can't sleep. You know, I remember going to bed one night at 7:30 at night, and it was 6 o'clock the next day. You know, I'd charged my phone a bunch of times trying to play bloody Family Island. You know, put about $40 through in gems and shit, and I'm still there like an owl going, whoo, whoo. Yeah, it was terrible. I actually felt like I was below the decks of the First Fleet. I clammy, bloody zombie skin. It was terrible.
That bad, huh? Stephen from the UK, we'll just call you UK Steve because we've got a few Steves here, reported this morning that 3 ex-British Special Forces had been killed in the Ukraine. Yep, I heard that too. Well, but there is 900 Royal Marines like less than 100 kilometres from Russia's border right now, so...
Yeah, but, you know, their job is not to go across that border.
No, they're training. They're training there with the 35,000 other troops and the big warships.
Yeah, to me, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of saying we can't fight, but we can train. You're going, well, that's, I don't know. Do one or the other.
Do a Putin and do both.
Hey, Wakey, how you going, mate? I see you there with your corn cob coloured donation there. Is that for the van, sir? Not too cow with a bang?
Hey, it was.
Good to have you here, mate. Wakey, it's always good to have you. Good to have you awake. And remember, on naval ships, when you were there and you were stacked at least 3 to 4 deep, right, with 30 to a mess deck, when someone farts, we all eat beans, if you know what I mean. But the call there, what you'll hear all the time when it's time for the, because they'll, like being in prison, they'll get you out of bed for the sake of getting you out of bed. There's no reason really for it. You know, you might have been sick all night, but what you'll hear is a whistle, and this gives me post-traumatic stress here. Wakey, wakey, wakey. All hands, all hands. And you're like, what the hell does that mean? Yeah, like Navy makes up this gay, and I don't mean man touching man sort of stuff, but what I mean is this stupid language that doesn't need to exist. Wakey, wakey, all hands, all hands. You're going, every other person on earth goes, time to go to bed, team. You know, it doesn't make sense. Peppers.
Yeah.
Still fatigued, still getting fatigued. Easy now, Kaz. Rest up.
Yeah, look,
not
it's
too
not
cow.
Around too. I'm still getting over it.
It's a weird feeling, eh?
It's really strange, and everyone seems to get it different. So it's very, very peculiar indeed. And
that's what I have to remember too. Is when I see people, you know, and they say they've got COVID now, you have to ask. You actually have to ask people, how did it affect you? Because some people, not at all. Other people,
yeah, exactly.
I've got one mate who's massive, tattoos, massive guy, and he was in hospital for 3 weeks and nearly died. You know, so you're like...
Yeah. You can't pick how it's going to affect people.
And his wife nearly died, so, you know, he would give you a bit of a Ukraine sandwich if you tried to gob off about it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But it does knock you around for sure.
So, TT, what you should say to your son, mate, who's going to artillery, poor bastard, hope his back holds up, righto, is what was his platoon? All you've got to do is go up beside him when he stays at home, you know, when he comes over to visit, and if it's 13, hallway 13. As you turn his light on, he might very well end up jumping out of bed with his shit over his shoulder.
Exactly. I believe last stream when we were talking to Tuan, we named his son Hallway 11, just for sake of, you know, not identifying him.
Steve, Mr. W, Russia hit a military target 10 miles from the Polish border. The place is believed to be a supply base and reception centre for, I hate to say it, by mercenaries from abroad. And you know what? I'd pump that. I'd absolutely annihilate it.
Yeah,
I'd make them second guess why they were there.
Yeah, I've heard some rumours that there might be some dirty bombs getting flown around too that are hitting the foreign fighters. So
look, you know what? There's enough dirty bombs over there. I found out when I watched a video last night about Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
oh yeah, that was shocking.
That was terrible for those that haven't seen it. What was it called? The what forest?
Oh God, I don't know.
Mr. Ballin has got a different version of it, a different one to that. And basically, what it was, these three guys in Georgia going to get metal or firewood or something, found two metal components where there was no snow around them that had heat emitting from them. So they used them to warm themselves up and didn't realise they were uranium depleted nuclear waste. And it took one guy 900 days to die. You know, from the... Yeah, and they were just found in the middle of a forest. Who discards that shit like that?
Well, yeah, who indeed?
Anthony, Tony, 3 days in, and I've been in for a year. Just want to say thanks, Kaz. Your videos help get through, and
there might be more to that.
What are you in there, Tone? Senor Tony, what are you in? Where are you? Tell us, Anthony. Can you tell us something? You don't have to tell us what your last name is. Just tell us what unit you're in, if it's great, you know, and a recommendation you'd give to people, you know, as you're about to head into your 1 year. Boom.
Yeah. And thank you for the great feedback.
Yeah, man. What will it take for the world to intervene, Kaz? No more money from you, sir? No more?
Yeah, it's a good question, though.
They will not.
At what point? There is a point where people would have to.
I
think
I don't think they
nation got involved. Like, what
if
if
who?
the big red corn chip got involved?
No, that if the red corn chip gets involved.
If they kicked off in Taiwan or something.
But if the red corn chip got involved, then Ukraine would never be heard of again. There'd be no more news footage. No one will care about.
Yeah, Ukraine might be wiped off the map, but then the world would have to get involved.
If the red corn chip goes for Taiwan, that's almost automatically WW3.
Yep. Exactly.
And it will affect everyone.
And then everyone will have to get involved for our own survival.
And it's not about Taiwan, it's about the waterways. It's about you won't be able to hold back Japan. Exactly. You won't be able to hold back USA.
Don't forget the Rocket Man over there flinging things at Japan right now.
There's people playing around with red buttons all over the world at the moment. Yep. There's for those that don't know, there's a thing called the football, you know, and that is the people that carry the briefcase that travel and they have to be within 2 minutes of the actual commander-in-chief, which has the codes ready to go, no matter what time they do rehearsals all the time. How long does it take to be able to go bang, press it, go? No emotion, no second thoughts, press the buttons, give the okay, do it now. And it's called the football.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. Guys and gals, honestly, this has all been war gamed. Yeah. I'm sorry that this didn't come out articulate tonight about the centre of gravity. All you need to understand is that there is strengths and weaknesses that have been worked out by each other, on each other. I don't know what Russia did because they seem to have undercooked everything they've touched. But that doesn't mean that they're not eventually going to find some terra firma beneath their skates and all of a sudden get some momentum. And then when you get that momentum, at the moment the red corn chip is watching and deciding, do I get involved or don't I? But economically, the red corn chip could be in a really big problem. Because I'd argue to you, and I don't have a problem with the actual red corn chip people themselves, who lived in shadow, socialism,
like us.
Communism, capitalism,
exactly,
democracy, depending on who you are.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that most people around the world are just trying to live their lives like us.
Yep, Conan Pepper says smash the like button. That's not you, Putin. That's not what he means by that.
Yeah, no, we don't need you smashing any buttons.
Yeah, you just leave your fingers off there.
Yeah, please.
Daz. Daz has committed himself to 10 steers. 10 male cows, which means he should be able to. He got them for $1,300, which means he can fatten them up, have them for 6 months or so, and then from there he should be able to sell each one of them. Tell me if I'm right or not, Daz, for about $1,500 each, which will return some money into his kitty. Rinse and repeat, and try to do that. The price of beef is, for those that don't know, Daz is saying he's getting over $3,500 a cow now.
Yeah, we're going to need our primary producers.
Yeah. Guys and gals, how long have we been talking for? An hour and 11. Have we actually covered anything that's interesting tonight, or is it just sort of welcome back?
We've had a great conversation, even in chat. We were all interested about the foreign fighters, about what might happen, and I guess this is going to be an ongoing thing, and it could change at any moment. Yeah,
and look, and there's absolutely no disrespect to foreign fighters, but what I'd say is you're making a mistake, and the ones that make my heart hurt, is when I see, for some reason, a guy leave his house and missus and baby behind. You're going, what are you doing, dickhead? Where's your father? Your father should treat you like his son, grab you by the goddamn ear, turn you around and go, get inside, you dickhead. You've got a family to worry about.
Exactly. That's where your duty is right now. And if they're on your doorstep, then you leave them behind, but not until then.
Yep. Devil versus good. Thanks, Kaz. So, hey, Devil versus God, how's that battle going, mate? Yeah.
It's already won.
So, let's kick this over quickly. I'll let you know what's going on with the van.
Oh, yeah.
So, basically, the van turned up the other day when those big rains went from Lismore, came down here. It's nearly rained nearly 30 days straight in Western Sydney. It was torrential. The flooding down here, as well as the rains that were falling. The first time in my life that I've actually turned around and said it's raining too much, because my car at the moment I've had for 11 years, no air conditioning anymore. That fell down. Pepsi stains, looks like true crime on the roof. It's a bloody goddamn mess. And so I was feeling a little bit under the colour. Started driving out there and turned around, I rang him up and said, look, I can't come. And I don't mean, Viagra, I don't need any. And so basically he said, yeah, no worries, let's try tomorrow. And then the next day I rang up and said, dude, you wouldn't believe it. My little girl's got COVID and I've just come up as basically pregnant. I am too. And he never returned anything back to me. So a week later I went in today. I didn't feel good. But I drove up the coast, signed the papers for the registration slips. Now we're just waiting on a bill of sale. Once a bill of sale comes through, I'll put all the money for the van prior to the build money in there. And then they'll do the build 2 to 3 weeks later. So I should be sometime around Anzac Day, heading north to Alaska. The gold rush is on in the blue van. And I tell you, I don't think I've seen a better looking van.
It's a beautiful van.
I saw it today. If I was a young woman, I'd say, what sort of guy drives a van like that?
Yep, where is he? Yep, you ditch your beta male for that guy, for sure.
You ditch it.
You ditch him, yep.
Yeah. So, anyway, what it comes down to is the second life is about to begin.
Yep.
You know, we'll still have things like this, but I want to do a lot more talking to people in the streets. You know,
Yeah, that'd be great.
street conversations. I'll promise to get good-looking guys on there for all those Raffies and Navy. You know, I promise to get some beautiful women on there. I pay people for their conversations. You know, I'm not going to say to someone, just come over here, give me free content. You know,
Sorry.
sorry?
I just thought of the people who pay prostitutes to talk to them. Is that what you mean by paying for conversation?
No. But basically, what happened was I watched Kensington Avenue. For those,
Yeah.
if you know anyone in your life where nothing keeps them happy, their windscreen's O'Brien crying every single day, always the victim, type in Kensington Avenue in YouTube and just watch the worst of the worst. It is worse than Ukraine. It is worse than Ukraine, and we're talking about modern first world country because of the drugs and shit. It is as bad as it gets.
Kensington Avenue's bad. It's
But-
bad.
But people go on there and they talk to these people, you know, with a camera to get the views, and then they walk off. You're going, why didn't you just give him $20? He didn't. He gave you all the information you wanted. You know, he gave you some beautiful content. You know, you could have helped him out or her out and given him $20. What if you said to someone in the street, how much does it cost to get you through a day so you don't feel sick, so you don't have to hassle anyone else? $60. All right. Can I sit with you for 40 minutes? Here's $60. And all you hear is the sound of one thong as they sprint off into the alley with it. I hope you trip, you son of a bitch.
Tuan.
Hey, Dudders.
Yeah, he's been here for a while. Tuan said, has it got air conditioning, Kaz? Tuan, it's got everything. It's so Gucci.
It has everything you want.
Everything.
And just so you know, the intent is that the car that I do have now that I've had for 11 years, the intent is I'll make a video where I'm going to donate this car after I pay I'll pay for everything for the transfer, and I'll give this car to either a family or to someone who's down on their luck that has a license still, and this could really help them. You know, so I'll give them my car.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Here's a beautiful gift: a car in summer with no air conditioning, no stereo.
Doesn't matter. They'll be grateful for it, I'm sure.
And you know what I'll do then?
What will you do?
I'll report it stolen.
No, you would never do that. Don't be so naughty.
And then I'll report it stolen and watch them get chased.
Oh, you're so naughty. You are naughty, indeed. It is blue, David Penson. It's Pepsi blue.
It's deep blue. It's Dave Penson blue.
It's Pepsi blue. You know it.
Hey, the names are back in blue again, which is great. For a long time,
Were they not?
yeah, not from my view, the directors weren't in blue anymore. Carl P's halfway through his Kapuka training now.
Oh, that's so good.
He's
I'm
having
glad
a ball.
he's doing good. Oh, I'm so glad. I knew he was going to thrive.
4x4 driver. I hope you have LED lights on the roof at the back. I've got I paid extra to get the LED lights, headlights for the VW. At the time, I thought, oh, you know, that's a lot extra. But when I saw them today, whew, beautiful,
glad.
absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful. I'm hoping to
Yeah,
get some
you'll be
RGB
glad.
lighting so that I can look like a disco Steve at Byron Bay.
Yep. It's really going to be great. I can't wait to see this chapter of your life. It's going to be really awesome. But it's also LED lights on the ceiling would be better than what's on the ceiling of your car right now.
Yeah, well, it looks like a Pepsi that's had its throat slit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the king has said, "What car is it, mate?" It's a Volkswagen Transporter 6.1 with a full conversion, mate, to camper van. It's got microwaves in it. It's got ovens. It's got lithium battery system, hot water system. You know, it's got everything but a toilet, because there's two things I don't believe in. You don't shit in your van, okay, and you also don't cook in your van unless it's microwave food. When you see people cooking bacon, because I've got a double bed in the roof as well. The last thing I want to do is smell porky pig You know, when it
'Cause
comes to
you'll
my
smell it for
van,
days.
I'm Islamic when it comes to my van. I don't want to smell a pig inside it.
Yeah, and it'll last for days too.
Yeah. Blue tabbing at Kapuka. Nearly there. Blue tabbing. For those that don't know, when you get to Kapuka, you have no tabs, or wherever they're going to put it on an epaulet, and then you go into when the train wheels come off. You've got red tabs, which tells everyone, give these people a wide berth, leave them alone. They've got their L plate on, and then you go to your P plate with your blue tabs, which means you can now have a can of Coke without looking like a felon. You know, and then you go to the gold tabs, which is like third class, right? Where you're starting to get ready for your field X, qualifications, and you're starting to get treated almost like a human, and you're starting to get information like what unit you're going to. You're going to be in a de facto relationship, information going to your missus. It's likely that you're going to pass, and then from there, getting ready for your march out.
Yep. Chris Studfield has asked, is Kaz just going to Queensland or will you eventually be making your way to Victoria?
There is more chance I'll be going to Victoria than Queensland.
Yes, I should be going there soon too.
Yep. Yes, she will. I'm not allowed to talk about that. That's for your channel to talk about that one.
I'm not going to talk about it.
Ooh. Okay.
Moving right along. Baz Bradford is here. We haven't seen Baz for
It has been a while. There he is. Look at him. We've missed you too there, Brad.
Yeah, we have. It's been ages.
Yeah. Baz the Bradford. What have you been up to?
Look, life does happen. He said life just happens, family, life, work. It does. It just happens. Don't worry about that. You just drift in and out whenever you're, here. It's great to see you.
And we'll leave this as one of our last points here. The reason why they're Baz, while we talk about these things, is to understand that at the moment we've got people they're talking about freedom fighters going over to Ukraine. We've got Mr. Zelensky here with his family. At what stage do you say to Vladimir Putin, the West has already showed they're not going to come and help you? At what stage do you say, well, I don't want any more family members to not have a father?
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't he say, okay, tell me, what does it look like if I tell my country to lay their weapons down? What does it look like? Because they're never going to get these buildings repaired.
No.
If you're in Odessa, you're probably still good to go. If you're in Mariupol, it's probably too late.
Mariupol's gone, yeah.
Yeah. If you're in Kiev, you're probably almost untouched.
Yeah, Kyiv is almost untouched at the moment.
But at what stage, when he looks at his wife and he looks at his children, does he look at everyone else and go, put a thumbs up, who else has got a wife? Who else has got children? He's going, if you think it's time, then I'll be the first to lay my weapon down. Because he's the safest man in Ukraine. The safest man in Ukraine with everyone out there protecting him. If they find out where he is, he's done.
Yeah, exactly. But that would be it's symbolically important that he stays the safest man in Ukraine. It would be demoralising. It's like I remember my grandmother telling me about the London bombings and how they were desperately just trying to make sure, what's that dome? Is it St. Paul's or St. Peter's?
Thunderdome.
Yeah, they were desperately trying to make sure it can hit anything as long as it doesn't hit that, because for the people to see that burning would absolutely crush them.
And that was what was terrible about Dresden in Germany being untouched right till the end of the war. And then the firebombing that went over that. You hear about what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but you don't hear about the bombing that happened for the USA on Dresden, where they actually dropped incendiary bombs on there and burnt more than 100,000 people.
Yeah, awful. I actually think Deadpool just called you a soy boy.
Sometimes.
He just asked, how are you going to cook tofu in your van?
The same way you cook it in yours. By the kilo. Hey, guys, I've got to get out of here. I've got to go and ring my little girl.
Yeah, I'm really impressed that your voice held up. Thanks for coming on and doing this, even though you're still crook.
Crooked.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Crooked Hillary.
Yeah. Come on now, let's go, Brandon.
Do you know what I think the biggest fight is at the moment in the world?
What's that?
It's the fight against, what's happening in our own countries about the war on family.
Yeah. That's a whole video in itself, isn't
look,
it? That's
it
a
is.
whole stream.
If
We
you get a
should do that one
chance,
day.
listen to the US song that's just come out, In God We Trust.
Yeah, you've got to. And watch the first clip. It's really great.
Really beautiful. And if you really want to see it get extrapolated, then what all you type is In God We Trust reaction. And then look at the videos, hundreds of them, where you're watching other people react to it. And if you think the US is so far apart from Australia, remember we follow their trends. They don't follow ours. And you can see it. And some of the lines they talk about is the news is telling me that I'm the problem. If you're patriotic and you love your country, they're telling you there's something wrong with you. At the same time, they're telling the people that are fighting for Ukraine they're heroes. That's a mixed message.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Yeah,
it is weird. All right, you've got to ring your darling.
I do.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Thank you for your donations of your time. Thank you for the donations of your dinero. Thank you for subscribing for those that did. This is the channel that gives you a voice. At the moment, a bit crackly. I haven't got the voice of Russell Brand at the moment, who's also doing a great job with his channel of breaking through all different topics at the moment. Totally recommend his channel. All right, guys.
Rob Kent just arrived.
Hey, Rob. Rob, you've caused a diddy mouth in the village. I'm sorry, sir. The keeper of hounds. Sorry, buddy. We've got to go. Got to go and see the little girl. I went for more than 7 days out seeing my daughter. It was killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to roll.
Yeah.
See you later. May the force be with you. Hey, Mr. Bryce. Take care. Take care to you too. And remember, if you get COVID, sharing's caring. See ya.